Down the Biscayne.
Yikes. 5 on the floor. Ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing. You can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars. Wearing bubble frauds.
Down the Biscayne.
Kept the floor playing. Got it all banned. Y'all seen the block. Stop with one hand. And Pat we trust. Inspire have the guts. We're here to bring the heat. Y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right. Welcome into 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick. And at 5 Reasons Sports, I got Brady Hawk. You can follow him at Brady Hawk 305. We got Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. We were going to go live tonight, but I really don't believe in torturing people. I don't. I don't think that would have been fair to the majority of our live audience to have to listen to this. So I appreciate those of you who did join us tonight on the podcast feed. It will go up on YouTube afterwards. You can listen to this and you can quickly forget it. We'll hope to zap you like Men in Black or something like that, so you don't have to relive this experience. The Miami Heat lose 98-86 to the Atlanta Hawks in the first of a home and home. I don't think that puts into words how bad this was. The Heat had to rally at the end of this game to get over 30% from the field. They finished at 32.1%, 7 of 40 from 3. I want to repeat that. 7 of 40 for 3. That includes 4 of 9 from Andrew Wiggins. The rest of the team was 3 of 31 from 3. I'm going to read them. Ready? Bam, 0 of 2. Khalil Ware, 0 of 2. Davion Mitchell, 0 of 3. Tyler Hero, 0 of 9. Duncan Robinson, 1 of 5. Kyle Anderson, 1 of 1. He played 28 minutes tonight. Alec Burks, who's in the NBA for his three-point shooting, 1 of 8. He missed his first 7. Jaime Hawkins Jr. in 7 minutes, 0 of 1. So every player who played for the Heat tonight attempted a 3. 2 of them shot better than 20% from 3. The Hawks get 14 assists from Trae Young, who shot 4 of 14. They still win. Somehow, the Hawks were bad enough that the Heat were able to stick around and get this thing to like 6 or 8 a couple times late. I never thought they could actually score the 6 points to win the game. Brady, before we get to the player of the game, and there will be no player of the game for the Miami Heat, what do you make of this? We talked about how bad the shooting could be for this team, but this was like historic. Like they were going to set records tonight until they just peaked over that line at the end of the game.
Yeah, I don't know what else you could say other than this. I mean, this is who they are. I mean, maybe it's not this bad. Maybe it's not shooting 17% from 3 bad, where you score 86 points and you legit cannot make a single shot. But this is who this team is at this stage. And that's why I kind of feel like ultimately, this isn't a game where I'm going to talk about specific players. Like, look, let's also point out Terry Rozier wasn't in the rotation in this game. Still ended up this way. Like the guy that we kind of always kind of point at. This was not a game where it's specific guys. This is a team-wide thing. It just feels like they're out of sorts. It feels like everything, they're just out of the mix right now. It just feels like, and that's why there's one thing I could pick on specifically, it's the fact that the things that I was talking about last night, where it's like when you have a game that I actually felt like was winnable, I'd rather you play your main guys, go try and get that game that you're in a rhythm at least and try and win, play your guys extra minutes. And worst case scenario, you sit some of your guys. If Tyler's, had a long All-Star weekend, he's had a long season, you play him those extra minutes in that game yesterday and he takes the night off in this one, I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. So that's why I think if there's one thing to point at, it's like you have to go and get those games like yesterday, because there's going to be a lot of games like this. Maybe not exactly, but there's going to be these bad offensive showings. And it's just, I don't really know what else you could say about this. This was across the board bad. I mean, Wiggins, as you mentioned, was kind of the one guy that found streaks throughout, but still that was even inconsistent. It was just a lot of inconsistent showing. Luckily, the Hawks were pretty much just as bad for a good portion of the game. It was like they were the only difference the Hawks was that they were getting to the paint and converting. They were able to find real good opportunities there. Offensive boards, I think, was kind of the real showing that the missed shots was blending into some things for Miami defensively. It was like, they were defending well enough for the Hawks not to shoot super well, but off a miss, the Hawks were absolutely crashing every board, and Miami was just nowhere to find. You just weren't able to find them. And they went small for a good portion of the second half. You didn't see Khalil come back in the mix, so obviously help out there. But this was just one of the worst games I've ever seen. Like, this was just an absolute horrible showing of both for both teams. It was just that the Hawks had guys that were able to weather the storm a little bit more than Miami. Miami, as you said, like, they were legit down 6 points with like 7 minutes left. I didn't even almost think they had a chance in this game.
No.
Like, down 2 threes away from tying the game. I didn't think they had a chance.
The Hawks don't have Jalen Johnson either. I mean, the Hawks are they're basically playing Trae Young and a bunch of young guys. Dyson Daniels had 11 rebounds tonight. Okongwu had a 17 and 8. George, I mean, literally, they lost.
Daniels 4 steals, by the way.
Well, Georges Niang, the minivan, had 11 and 5. This game set us back generations. I do not know that we'll recover. There were log segments of this game where Niang was going against Kyle Anderson, and we were on dial-up. I've never seen anything quite like this. This was just hard to watch. And look, let's do a couple things tonight. We can't blame Terry Rozier, Alex. He didn't play. It got so bad on playback that we were like, if they put Rozier in here, maybe he could have one of those runs. But this tells you a little bit, even as we've said, anybody but Rozier. The anybody's are not real attractive options at the moment either. I mean, we've been calling for Alec Burks, who has been, a professional shooter when they put him in the games this year. He gave him 27 minutes tonight, and he went 1 of 12 and 1 of 8 from 3. This almost felt like a Spo C game. C, I don't have anything else. He played Hawkins for 7 minutes in the first half, didn't go back to him in the second half. Obviously, Jovic is hurt. We're still waiting on an official update on how long that's going to be. The Heat probably won't tell us the truth anyway. But anyway, we're expecting it to be several weeks. And still, even with as bad as things were, Alex, no Pelle Larsson and no Haywood Highsmith.
Yep.
Where they are in his sight line right now. What did you make of this overall? And then we'll go through the formalities here that we have to do.
Yeah, I mean, the rotation choices were interesting. Like, because of the Jovic injury, Spo kind of had to switch things up, but he did more than just that. He did more than just play one more guy. Kyle Anderson got a lot more minutes, as you mentioned earlier. But Haywood is still out. Larson is still out. And then you've got Jaime, as you mentioned, getting that first stint, not coming back in because he didn't look good. I'm going to be interested to see if he's still going to be that 10th guy next game. I mentioned on Discord, like, I could see Haywood taking a spot if it doesn't change soon. He'll probably give him a little bit more time before doing something like that. But I see kind of and I didn't mention Alec Burks. I see the vision though. I see what they're trying to do for most of the game, other than that starting unit. Whenever that unit wasn't on the floor, they had 2 shooters on the floor. When 2 of Tyler, Duncan, and Alec Burks on the floor. And I think a lot of it had to do as well with playing Kyle Anderson so much. That was kind of like, I think, what they were trying to kind of put his minutes alongside 2 shooters at all times. And I think that's how you kind of optimize him, since you're always playing him next to a big. I think the best way to do that so that things don't get too crowded is having the 2 shooters play off of him. And then if you cause an overreaction, he's able to create opportunities in the paint. He's able to get the lob up. And occasionally hit a wide open 3 like he did tonight. So I see the vision here. The problem is, and we were talking about this on the podcast that we did today, Ethan, the law of averages stuff. Although on this one, I agree with Spo, or whatever Spo is eventually going to say, because we obviously haven't heard what he said yet. But he's going to talk about how, the 3-point shooting variance, he's not going to care about that. And I think it's for good reason. I think, when elite shooters are just missing that many shots, you kind of throw your hands up. Now, there's a certain part of it. It's what we've been talking about. What I mentioned on the podcast we did today is that a lot of their shooters are having to take high level difficulty shots all the time. And, like Tyler and Duncan are used to taking those level of shots. But when it's the overwhelming majority of the threes you're taking, like the percentages are going to go down, even if they are good at them. Like, they're not getting a lot of easy ones. Tyler did miss a couple of easy ones, but just in general, I think that's a problem for their shooters. So I do understand trying to have 2 of those 3 guys on the floor at all times, especially when you're playing Anderson with another big. I see the logic here for the rotation decisions. And then Hawkins is kind of like the wild card, where I don't know if his spot is as secure. But it's interesting to see him kind of fiddle around with these things. Ultimately, though, like we said, the offense is still going to hit their ceiling. And I think tonight it was a different story. It was like the 3-point shooting variance. Like this is a night where you can absolutely like point to that and just kind of, throw your hands up. I think another
But I
night.
don't think it's going to be. But I don't think, Alex, it's going to be that much better. I don't. I
No,
just
but
don't think they.
that was I probably took too long to get to this point, but that wasn't the only problem. They were awful from two. That's the
Yeah.
real issue. Is like they're trying to create. They might get some paint touches, but they are not good at converting from two either. And on the nights that they have been, it's because they've been very good at converting on the easy ones. But like tonight, they ended up shooting, what was it, 20 or 44 from two, which is 45%, like 31% in the half court. This team is just not good at generating offense in the half court. This is a Hawks team that like is not a good defense as a team. Dyson Daniels is an awesome defender, and you can explain away some of Tyler's struggles with Dyson Daniels being maybe the best guard defender in the league right now. But other than that, like they're not a good team defense at all, and you're still not able to even generate anywhere near league average levels of offense.
Well,
And
you
I
look
get
at
it.
the
It's the
2
second
point.
night of a back-to-back. But still, it's a second night of a back-to-back for the Hawks as well. Like, I don't think you can really excuse that away. I think it all comes down to they're a better team than this, but ultimately they're a below average offense. Even if you try to do this whole, like, two shooters in at the same time thing, which I completely agree with.
Wiggins tonight from 2 of 5. Bam, 5 of 11. Where 4 of 5. I want to talk about where though. We will. Davion Mitchell, 3 of 3 from inside the 3-point line. Tyler was 4 of 10. Duncan 0 of 1. Kyle Anderson 1 of 3. Burks 0 of 4. Jaquez 1 of 2. Let's get to the player of the night because we have to do some of this stuff. But I want to talk about Ware a little bit more too.
And now it's time for the A-Aggressive Insurance Player of the Night, sponsored by our friend Lynette. You can find her at insurancebylynette.com. That's with 2 N's and 2 T's, insurancebylynette.com. If you need car insurance, renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance, or any other type of insurance, she's the person to go to. Based in Lauderhill, she services the entire Tri-County area here in South Florida, and she will make sure to get you the best deal. She'll probably talk to you about the heat while you're at it. Reach out to her, insurancebylynette.com. And now, the player of the game.
Okay, I'm just going to point to Trey for this reason, Brady. He's 4 of 14. He's 0 of 7 from 3, but he controlled the game with his passing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that Heat fans are going to, because we've reported that the Heat are not huge fans of, not, I wouldn't say huge fans of Trey, but Trey is not somebody that they were willing to kind of go for in any kind of strong way in terms of transaction when Trey has been available. I mean, he's been largely available over the past couple of years. And I understand what the limitations would be with a Trey Young, Tyler Hero backcourt, just in terms of size and defense and all that. But when you watch him tonight, and we had a Eternal there watching in person, he kept talking about Trey's passing. You see what an elite passer does for average players, which is what the Hawks have a lot of. Okay, particularly now that they've traded. I mean, Jalen Johnson's hurt. They traded DeAndre Hunter. I mean, they're not even really trying to compete this year. And you see how he's breaking down the defense and all of that. How are the Heat gonna build this build without a player who can set up the offense and make plays for others?
It's tough to say. I mean, I still to this, when they had it in mind of how the role of Tyler Hero was going to be, and I still know, he still ended up being an all-star even with the way he ended up playing. But I do think him off the ball for good portions help him, for the long term. I think it just makes things a lot easier for him. As you see right now, everything is pick and roll. Like he's not getting as many spot up looks. It's a lot of pick and roll basketball. It's a lot of him on the ball. And he's found ways to master it. Like we've seen the foul stuff from last night. We've seen different opportunities where he's driving more. But ultimately, it just puts him in a difficult spot. Like, yes, you add the defensive guard in the backcourt that helps you on that end, but it's not doing a lot when that guy in the backcourt is, the guy defense are helping off of to double Tyler on a lot of these looks. Trey definitely, looking at they was pretty even scored across Atlanta's roster, but I definitely would say Trey, player of the game, the 14 assists. I mean, good passers can create, kick out threes, but great passers can create like constant good twos. And that's what Trey did in this game. I just thought that, as Alex said before, like they just had the difference in this game was that they just controlled the inside where Miami was just, missing threes and had no efficiency in the lane as well, where the Hawks at least took care of business there. And Trey was a good reason, just a big reason for them kind of producing there. So I don't know. I don't really know moving forward, like in a long-term sense, how they do that, because ultimately it does feel like they need a blend of a guy that is a good passer and that also, is a defender. That's why I think Lonzo was a guy everybody talked about at the time, because that's kind of the prototypical build I think you'd want in, just in the backcourt in general. Once again, this is not the reason for them losing. It's not because of Davion Mitchell in the starting lineup or his ability. I just think it's kind of, I said it the other night. Like you look at this roster right now, and I didn't think it'd be this bad, but I said this team in too many lineups has not enough shooting. Like, there's just not enough shooting in these lineups. Like, yes, they can go to these Burks, Duncan at times, and look how they shot tonight. But just as a whole, you're just not playing enough shooting at the moment, especially, as I said, when you're replacing Kyle Anderson with Jovic, who had decent moments, but, like, the role is totally different because Jovic was at least providing spacing and pulling guys away from the lane, where Kyle Anderson is not. So now you're running lineups with Davion Mitchell and Kyle Anderson, and they're just helping all over the place. You're not going to get good looks inside the lane. And Tyler obviously has to be the one on the ball, so he's not going to be somebody on the weak side pulling defenders off. So it just puts you in a tough spot. So now you're forced to make a bunch of tough twos to win the game, and they're just not going to do that most nights. That's just not going to be the case. So their formula right now to win is just it's very limited.
Yeah, there's a very tight space there. All right, we're going to do these two segments back to back. I've got ideas for both of them. Alex, let's get to the play of the night.
And now it's time for the X-Ray of the Play of the Day, brought to us by our friends over at Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services. Nelson and his team will bring the X-ray equipment and the staffing to you. If you work in a hospital or a medical office, get a consultation today at c-armandstaffing.com or give them a call at 561-891-9620. Their fleet of trucks at your service. Again, it's Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services, 561-891-9620. And now, the X-Ray of the Play of the Day.
All right, I don't really know which one we go to tonight. Do you have one offhand? Because otherwise I have an idea here. But Alex, do you have something that jumps out to you? I just feel like this was just an endless string of torture. I don't, like, I'm having trouble even remembering anything from this game that... Here's what I would go with.
I was going to say there's nothing inspiring here, so just go ahead. I want to hear where you're going to take this.
No, here's what I would take. This is one of the few nights this year that I saw Tyler kind of droop the shoulders a little bit. Like, it felt like he has had this sort of confidence that has carried him. And tonight I thought, like, once the shots started to go, that didn't start to go in, he looked, and again, he's 25 years old. He just had an all-star break, which I know he participated in, but it's not obviously the same strenuous nature as the regular season. And so I'm not going to say this was all the product of a back-to-back, okay? But he just looked like he had no gas tonight at all. And it came across on several plays. I thought in the way that he reacted to some of the missed shots, which is not the way I've seen him react this season. And I keep coming back to this. First thing, if he gets hurt, okay, they're going to struggle to score 80. I mean, they got 86 tonight. They're going to struggle to, like, average 75 if he gets hurt. So that cannot happen unless you're trying to tank. Like, if you're legitimately trying to tank, like, if you pull Tyler from this, they might not win for 3 weeks because I don't know how else they're going to generate any offense, okay? But I guess on the other hand is, if you are trying to win, you have to find some way to take pressure off of him. You have to. Jimmy never had it this bad. At least he had Tyler helping. Like, Jimmy, at this point for Tyler, there's nobody out there who's going to be able to generate any kind of looks. I guess if you're hoping for them to tank, which again they're not going to intentionally do, you're rooting for this outcome. But the outcome that I see coming is, I think in 3 weeks he's going to be out of gas. That's what it looked like to me tonight.
He's been out of gas. The only thing is he continues to show up and continues to have, like, points where he plays well, but then we keep seeing the same thing in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarters is where he really runs out of gas. It's literally, the end of the game. He's had to put the team on his back the entire game, scoring and playmaking wise, having to run through screens, see all the, increased attention. And I think that's when you notice it. And I think that's why it's a huge part of why we keep seeing these fourth quarter collapses this season, especially without Jimmy, without the stabilizing presence like we talked about on the podcast. I think it's been happening. in the fourth quarters. And, you guys were talking about Trey before. Just to add on to that, the Hawks had a negative 58 net rating with Trey off the floor tonight. So really everything came down to how good they were with him on the floor. And that's something that the Heat were supposed to you're holding your hat on defense, right? And that it's not like, oh, you were, even though Trey himself, right, had like a tough scoring game, like Brady mentioned before, don't let that fool you. He is still an extremely good offensive player, even with him having a particularly awful shooting night as well, right? Like I think there's similar things going on here with Trey and Tyler, actually, when you talk about like their role and their respective offenses, where like they don't have a second guy to, consistently take the load off of them. And I think the difference is, what you saw tonight is that Trey is just a different level of passer. And not to say that Tyler's a bad passer. He's an above average passer. I think he's made strides in that pretty much every season. But Trey is on a different level. Trey is probably a top 5 passer in the league, right? Just off the top of my head, like I think he's that level. And, they had a 42 offensive rating without him on the floor. That tells you how important Trey is to that team. So I think you saw kind of the differences between them tonight and just how there's levels to this stuff. But it particularly, it's the same problem with the Heat, though. It's like when Tyler is not creating good offense for himself or for the team, they just don't have a lot going on. Like their offensive rating was about 10 points worse with Tyler off the floor tonight. And the Heat's defense was actually a whole lot better tonight with Tyler on. Just now that I'm looking at the numbers, I thought that was funny. But yeah, like I just think we keep coming back to the same problem. It's like you mentioned the definition of insanity and all that, type of stuff. It's like they keep hitting them, running into a wall here. And it's like they're running into the same wall over and over. And we're wondering as the viewer, players, like when it's going to change. But I don't know how much, to be fair, is going to be able to change. Tonight, like maybe was an anomaly as far as the offense being this bad. But still, it's not like we know it's not a good offense. And the defense is not even where we thought it would be, even with these roster additions. Like I think it's still an inconsistent defense that shows flashes of being a good defense.
Well, that's a good segue. Play the clip. Defending the house. I'll go to Brady on that one.
And now it's time for our Defending the House segment, sponsored by our friends over at The Real Estate Shop. You can find them at realestateshopfl.com. That's with 2 P's and an E, realestateshopfl.com, or at the Fort Lauderdale Realtor on Instagram. This is Javier Iglesias and Amanda Martin. They help buyers and sellers in real estate. They're nimble and protective of their clients. They service the entire Tri-County area. That's Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties with a proven on-market strategy. The Real Estate Shop sellers earn the most money in the shortest time frame because Amanda and Javier have a deep understanding of the local market. So check them out. Again, it's at the Fort Lauderdale Realtor on Instagram, realestateshopfl.com, or give them a call at 954-268-9812. And now, who defended the house?
By the way, this is so bad that I was reading the Miami Heat's Instagram posts, and people are saying they can't wait for the Dolphins to come back. Brady, 2 things, and then we close. First thing, do you have any idea why Spo was so angry at Khalil Ware tonight? Because there were a couple of situations where he was pointing at his head when he was talking to Ware. Ware had a huge... Well, Alex is making fun of that because that's what I do to him when his stream is off. The helicopter's coming, and he never notices it. I hope that Ware notices it when Spo does it. Did you notice? Did you see any of that? What was that about? There's somebody else I want to talk to you about before we close this down and again show some mercy on people.
Yeah, I know the one specifically you're talking about was literally just a possession. It's just like Trey's like getting like exactly what I was talking about, the playmaking for twos where he was just getting the back line. Like he was just hitting over the top on that back line and Ware wasn't containing good enough. And once a young big makes a mistake, Spo's going to scapegoat that guy at probably a good portion of the time, it feels like immediate timeout and blame him, even though they're 3 for 106 from 3. That's ultimately what's going to happen there. So I don't know. Ware probably wasn't his best game. I felt like they got beat up on the opposite boards, but it was a good portion of it was when he was not on the floor. The 3 ball for him, he didn't shoot many of them. He shot them early in the game, but it's just a general take is like his three-ball really did drop off. Like he was at a certain point where he was making them consistently early in his when he got put in the starting lineup and got rotation minutes. That is not the case anymore. Like he's getting clean looks consistently, and he's like, I don't know if he's not as confident as he was when he first started. A couple misses has gotten to him, but it is just not dropping right now for him. And one of the biggest things was early in the game was where it just got taken out of the game, game plan wise. I mean, the Hawks totally were not allowing him to get active on the roll. It makes sense. I mean, when you have the ability to help off, multiple players on the floor, on multiple lineups that Miami goes to, it just makes it even easier to load up on the roll. It just makes it so much easier to kind of limit Ware's ability there. So all of his makes are literally coming on those little like short jumper floater looking things, those little push shots or a hook shot. Other than that, he's not getting the clean lobs that he did early in his rotation minutes. So it's a little bit of a tougher time for him, especially with the three ball not falling. But yeah, I mean, Spo definitely did go at him after just some miscues defensively in a game where he should be yelling at every guy that shot a three.
With you. Final thing, and again, then we close it. Why is Highsmith still not getting minutes?
I mean, it's hard for me to say that in this game, just because defense wasn't really my biggest issue. I mean, was Haywood coming in to spark them from three? Probably not. I mean, whoever didn't play is one of those things somebody's going to say that guy should have played. Like this night is the specific. I understand nights like the last game when there's like a real way to win this game. This one was not that one. I mean, I think in general, Haywood should probably be getting rotation minutes, but once again, it's just you're not getting consistent, shooting in your rotation. I mean, look, maybe they've run out of options as we talked about before. Like maybe there's not an ability to get to it fully. I don't know. I just don't know that. Like we talked about before, when they made this trade, there was a direction of this team where they were going to lean defense, but the shooting has been real collateral here. Like, and I don't know if it's the defense hasn't been good enough to make that switch. It hasn't been. The defense has not been good enough for stretches where you could say we can take less shooting in the rotation. So now it's about balancing out the rotation again, and that's why. Look, Duncan has really struggled. Like this is an example here where he's been bad defensively and he has not found his shot, but he's an example of just trying to spark something. And I know it sounds crazy, but like with the starting lineup thing I mentioned, I just think they need to change up in the rotation because the bench unit that I saw tonight is if they're trying to win games, I just don't think it makes sense for the remainder of the season if they're just going to funnel these guys in and out and try to find a spark because these lineups just don't make sense. They just don't.
Yeah. All right, that's it for us tonight. Wednesday night, the Heat are hosting the Hawks, so we all get to watch this in person. Lucky us. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. After all, someone needs to listen to my dad.